The Master is a 2012 film written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. It follows the journey of WW2 vet Freddie Quill in the war's aftermath. Freddie is a socially inept pseudo-alcoholic struggling to adjust to civilian life. He has difficulty finding a job due to violent outbursts, and he accidentally kills a man with moonshine he made with paint thinner. One night, he stumbles onto a boat occupied by a group called The Cause, led by the charismatic Lancaster Dodd, a man who really can't be introduced better by anyone but himself.
I am a writer, a doctor, a nuclear physicist, a theoretical philosopher. But above all, I am a man.
Well, not seeing any red flags there. Dodd is instantly intrigued by Freddie, in part because he enjoys his moonshine. He has Freddie undergo processing, a rigorous interrogation process that supposedly helps the subject recall memories from past lives. Processing is not easy. It's repetitive and demanding, designed to mentally exhaust the subject and lower their defenses.
Starting now, you're not to blink. If you blink, we go back to the start. Infringement. You blinked. Starting now, you're not to blink. If you blink, we go back to the start.
Though initially resistant, Freddie reveals details about his mother's mental illness and sexual encounters with his aunt. He also talks about Doris, a young woman he promised to return to after the war. However, concerned about his mental state, he has decided to stay away from her until he gets control of himself. While he's still not sure of the cause, Freddie decides to travel with the group, partly because he has nowhere else to go, and partly because he starts to believe in Dodd. The Master is a quintessential Paul Thomas Anderson film, marked by stunning cinematography, subdued storytelling, and an atmospheric soundtrack. It also happens to bear some striking similarities to a long-running manga about a guy who wields giant swords and fights demons. Berserk is a dark fantasy manga first published in 1990, and would still be in continuation today if not for the untimely death of its creator in 2021. It follows the story of Guts, a man who was born from the corpse of a hanged woman. He was raised by a band of mercenaries where he suffered emotional and sexual abuse from his father figure. During his adolescence, Guts is separated from his original group and makes his living as a freelance merc. Similar to Freddie, his life is surrounded by a sense of hopeless nihilism. He's a drifter with nothing to live for, struggling to stay alive without really knowing why. Surviving is his reason for living. Life and death situations are the only thing that make him feel like his existence is worth something, and this quality is what catches the attention of Griffith, the charismatic leader of an up-and-coming mercenary group. From the moment he's introduced, Griffith is surrounded by an eerie atmosphere. There's almost nothing he isn't good at, and he does it all with a calm, collected demeanor that can seem warm and reassuring, or cold and sinister depending on the context. Griffith becomes uniquely obsessed with Guts, and opens up to him in ways he never has with anyone else. It's not long before the two develop a strong friendship. So we have similar setups here, with two captivating leaders who grow attached to misanthropic drifters. Don't get me wrong, there are many, many differences between these characters. Freddie isn't exactly sympathetic. He is as strange to us as he is to all the other characters in the film, whereas Guts is far more understandable. We're meant to empathize with him. And while Dodd is presented as charming to his followers, from our perspective he's an arrogant, off-putting, obvious fraudster. A stark contrast to Griffith, who's presented to us the same way he is to others in the story, a glorious but ruthless leader. Nonetheless, it's the relationships between masters and drifters that take center stage in both. And even as these stories show us how these unlikely friendships developed, the journey is overshadowed by a looming sense of tragedy. No matter how good things may seem at times, no matter how much we want to see these pairs grow closer, the power imbalance is impossible to ignore. The Masters were attracted to these drifters during the most vulnerable points of their lives, and as it becomes clear over time, that's how they want things to stay. Griffith and Dodd are seen as saviors by their followers. One a prophet teaching people the truth, and the other a peerless general who offers the lower class a chance at a better life. Dodd's followers love him like a wizened father figure. He's a humorous, charming man who can make you feel like the most important person in the world when he talks to you. Griffith is far more aloof. Though he can be charming like Dodd, he is never dishonest about what he wants, and the people who join him know what they're signing up for. Dodd often targets rich people who will lend him boats and mansions so that he can get a taste of their lifestyle, while Griffith recruits lower-class people like himself who don't have many prospects. Joining his army offers them a chance to raise their status.
If I'd never met the Hawks, I would never even have imagined it. Me, in a huge castle like this, surrounded on all sides by nobles. Not even in my wildest dreams.
However, while the rewards for joining Griffith are more tangible, he's still putting their lives at risk to accomplish his own goals, and his ambition is always his first priority. The rewards may be different for each group, but both masters lure people in for their own ends, and this is what makes their interests in Freddy and Guts so unique. While it never hurts to gather more recruits, their interest in the Drifters goes beyond that. Freddy and Dodd become drinking buddies. The first time they interact is after Dodd drinks some of Freddy's moonshine. It's not exactly the image you'd expect from a genius savant, and that's the point. Freddy offers Dodd a reprieve from the performance he puts on for everyone else. Griffith, meanwhile, finds something refreshing and exciting about Guts.
You are certainly brave, but I believe you purposefully put your life in danger and seek the meaning of your existence by battling to preserve it. That's what I see. You are fascinating. I find you much to my liking.
Griffith is a driven man. He decided at a young age that he wanted his own kingdom, and he's been working towards that goal ever since. Guts' approach to life is the complete opposite, but despite his recklessness, maybe even because of it, he's managed to survive this long, and Griffith admires that about him. To the Masters, Freddy and Guts come off as somewhat misguided people who can be useful to them with the right prodding, but both are surprised to realize how much they genuinely like the Drifters, and so they make it a priority to keep these men under their thrall. There's also suggestions of sexual attraction in both relationships, at least from the Masters. In Berserk, it's... I guess I really don't need to explain it.
And so, now you belong to me, Guts.
The implication is more subdued in the Master, but Dodd's wife makes some suggestive comments.
You can do whatever you want, as long as I don't find out. And as long as no one that I know knows about it.
In any case, Freddy and Guts find many things their lives were lacking when they join up with the Masters. Freddy finally found someone who seems unbothered by his mental problems, and his life is given more stability within the group. Likewise, Guts is valued for the first time in his life. He's given an opportunity to develop leadership skills and put his fighting prowess to use for someone he believes in. It seems like a beneficial situation for all, but power dynamics put pressure on all relationships, and in situations like these, it's only a matter of time before everything cracks. Griffith and Dodd approach relationships with their followers very differently. Dodd plays the role of a supremely intelligent but humble man no different than anyone else. He's the vagabond prophet, traveling with his apostles to spread the good word. He treats his followers like old friends, making everyone feel special in some way. However, these people only know him for the performance he puts on. The only people who seem to know his true self are his wife and Freddy. His wife is very invested in the cause and pushes him to live up to his persona while denying the bits of him that reveal the flawed con artist underneath. Rather than embracing who her husband really is, she rejects him as the tragic outcome of what he would be if he gave into temptation. Freddy, on the other hand, likes the realer parts of Dodd, and because of this, he can't stop himself from seeing his bullshit. This is a major problem for Dodd. Though he pretends to be a humble man, he cannot abide anyone in his circle who asserts their own will. He is in charge, and the people should be grateful to be in his presence. And so, when Freddy calls Dodd out for what he really is, the Master snaps back, and does everything in his power to make Freddy feel dependent and beneath him.
Just me, Freddy. Just you. I'm the only one that likes you. The only one. You're fucking drunk.
Freddy sticks around for a while longer, but it becomes clear that he cannot stay with the group unless he fully commits to the cause. He goes through the paces to show his commitment, but in the end he makes a spontaneous decision to leave. Without saying a word, he drives off right before Dodd's eyes. He's stealing that motorcycle, by the way. Griffith is different in that he very much takes on the role of a leader. He cares for and bonds with his subordinates, but he draws a clear line between them and himself.
They are my able soldiers, it's true. They are dedicated comrades who sacrifice themselves for my dream so that it might be real. But that does not make them friends. In my mind, a true friend never relies on another's dream. The man who would be my friend must have his own reason for living, beyond me, and he should put his heart and soul into protecting his dream. He should never hesitate to defend it, even against me. For me to call a man my friend, he must be equal to me in all respects.
This is the first time we really see Griffith's fatal flaw. He has spent so much time feeling so sure about what he wants that he overlooks what he has. He has a preconceived notion of what a friend is and never thought to reevaluate it, even after everything he's shared with Guts. However, Guts realizes that there's truth to what Griffith said and resolves to leave the army to figure out what he wants from life. Though their circumstances are different, both Freddy and Guts leave to escape their dependency on the Masters. If these relationships are to continue, they have to be on equal terms. This resistance will force the Masters to make difficult choices about who they are and what they really want. When Freddy and Guts leave, the Masters are disconnected from the relationships that kept them grounded. The full extent of Griffith's delusions regarding friendship are revealed when he discovers Guts is leaving. An equal friendship doesn't really suit him. He needs to have control over the things he cares about. When Guts leaves, he tries to stop him by force, only to suffer a humiliating defeat. Crushed for perhaps the first time in his life, he childishly acts out and sabotages everything he worked so hard to achieve. He is thrown into a dungeon and tortured while the rest of his army are branded as traitors. Everything he built destroyed, all because one man walked away. Dodd, on the other hand, thrives with Freddy gone, or at least the cause does. His wife insisted that Freddy was a liability, and with him out of the way, she pushes her husband to turn the cause into a more legitimate operation. And by appearances it seems to work, as the next time we see them, the cause has opened a new school in England. Although one is at a high and the other an extreme low, both Masters can now see the impact the Drifters had on their lives. These relationships were distractions from their original ambitions. Dodd is willing to give Freddy another chance. An unspecified amount of time after Freddy leaves, Dodd tracks him down and invites him to their new headquarters in England. The two are glad to see each other, but Dodd explains that the conditions are the same as before. They can only stay together if Freddy commits to the work of the cause. Freddy declines, and says with a smile that maybe it'll work out in the next life. Dodd remarks that should they ever meet in another life, they'll be enemies. Guts and Griffith's reunion is, a lot, but here are the basics. A broken Griffith is given the opportunity to become an all-powerful entity so that he may achieve his dream, but to do so, he has to sacrifice Guts and the rest of his companions. An offer that he accepts. It's interesting that, despite their different circumstances, the Masters are only willing to maintain these friendships when they hold all the power, but the reason these relationships flourished in the first place were because Freddy and Guts helped them connect with the more authentic, human sides of themselves. By abandoning these friendships, they cast off what makes them human, choosing instead to live like gods.
More like a demon.
Who knows? Is there a difference?
The heavy-handed symbolism of Griffith's transformation really drives home exactly how much is at stake here. Not only will these men allow everyone around them to suffer for their own benefit, but they are so consumed with their own desires that they can't even see what really makes them happy. Everything is burned for an impossible dream that must provide ultimate fulfillment. And that is what makes them such pathetic and terrifying leaders. Friendship can be complicated. Even when it's unhealthy, there's so much to lose if you give it up. Freddy and Guts found the Masters at times where they needed them the most, and they both walk away a little better because of the experience. Yeah, I'm just going to ignore all the supernatural shit Guts has to deal with. We're specifically talking about personal growth. It was his time with Griffith that helped him open up to people and find meaning in his life. It's hard to say exactly what Freddy gained from Dodd, but we do know that after leaving, he finally attempted to contact Doris and took the news that she was already married in stride. Maybe all of Dodd's bullshit processing helped him gain more self-control. Or maybe just seeing this moonshine-loving lunatic masquerading as a prophet made him feel like his life wasn't so hopeless. Even when they can see the toxicity of their relationships, they don't have an easy time giving them up. The good times were real, what they felt was real, and they may never have anything like it again. But once they've seen these people for who they are, or rather, what they have chosen to become, there's no going back. Freddy and Guts value authenticity, while the Masters reject that part of themselves. For all that the Drifters endure, they manage to take something valuable from their encounters. It's the Masters who remain stagnant. They're worse off than the Drifters were when they first met. While Freddy and Guts grow, Griffith and Dodd sink further into their pride, ego, and insecurity, and it looks like they'll spend the rest of their lives stuck there. Hey, thanks so much for watching this all the way to the end. If you got something useful out of this video and think others could too, please give it a like, share it around, and consider subscribing. If you really liked it, leave a comment and let me know. I might do a similar type of video in the future. Thanks again, and see you around.